The ambient hum of the monitoring station filled sensor technician Aaron Kestel's ears as his fingers danced across the haptic interface. The blue-white glow of the sensor array bathed his face in ethereal light, highlighting the deep circles under his eyes. 3 years on night shift had accustomed him to the quiet solitude of Sector 12 Gamma's deep space monitoring station, but it hadn't made the hours pass any faster. Sentinel, the Zephyrian Empire's orbital outpost, maintained its vigilant watch over the sector's traffic lanes. The massive structure resembled a gleaming silver lotus, its petals housing the most sophisticated tracking technology in known space. From his modest workstation, Aaron could observe every vessel that entered or exited the sector: cargo haulers with their lumbering profiles, nimble mining tenders shuttling between asteroid clusters, and the occasional patrol frigate maintaining the Empire's peace. Status report. Technician Kestel. Lieutenant Eridus's voice came through the comm, startling Aaron from his methodical scanning. All vessels accounted for and registered, Lieutenant, Aaron replied, suppressing a yawn. Cargo hauler Prosperity just cleared the Tannhauser Junction. Mining Fleet Delta 7 is on schedule returning to Helion Base. Nothing unusual. Very good. Continue monitoring. Aaron nodded to himself. The Empire's star registry was comprehensive and unyielding, a manifestation of the Zephyrian belief that knowledge was control. For 2 millennia, not a single vessel had traversed Imperial space without being catalogued, tracked, and approved. The registry's infallibility was an article of faith among Imperial citizens. The Empire knew all. Stretching his arms above his head, Aaron allowed himself a moment of reflection. At 28 standard years, he had already settled into the comfortable predictability of Imperial service. His family back on Zephy Prime would have preferred he pursue a more prestigious position in the central bureaucracy. But Aaron had always been drawn to the frontier, even if that frontier came with mind-numbing routine. The monitoring station's quiet was punctuated only by the occasional beep confirming another vessel's identity against the registry. Aaron's eyes glazed slightly as he watched the familiar traffic patterns unfold on his screen, until a sharp, insistent alert jolted him upright. A single dot had appeared at the fringe of the sector. Unregistered. Aaron's heart quickened. He ran the standard identification query, fingers flying across the interface with practiced precision. The system returned an error. No match found. That can't be right, he muttered, running the query again. Same result. The unregistered vessel was moving, fast, faster than any ship Aaron had ever tracked. The velocity readings had to be wrong. They exceeded known FTL capabilities by at least a factor of 3. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he initiated the escalation protocol. Lieutenant Eridus, we have an anomaly. Unidentified vessel at sector boundary. Quadrant 739. Speed exceeding registry parameters. There was a moment of silence before Eridus's voice returned, tighter than before. Verify and recheck, technician. The registry doesn't make mistakes. I've run 3 verification sequences. Sir, the vessel is real, and it's not in our archives. The tension in the monitoring station shifted palpably as Lieutenant Eridus appeared at Aaron's station. A tall, severe woman with steel-gray hair pulled back in a regulation knot. The lieutenant had served the Empire for over 40 years. Her expression remained impassive, but Aaron noticed the slight widening of her eyes as she studied the readouts. Initiate sector alert, she said quietly, then activated her command comm. This is Lieutenant Eridus of Sentinel Station. We have an unregistered vessel moving at unprecedented velocity through Sector 12 Gamma, requesting immediate fleet response. Alarms blared throughout the station. Emergency protocols engaged, turning the ambient lighting blood red. Aaron's screen expanded to show multiple tracking angles of the mysterious vessel. Its profile was unlike anything in Imperial records, sleek, asymmetrical, with unusual energy signatures emanating from what appeared to be its propulsion system. Technician Kestel, Maintain tracking lock and compile all scan data, Eridas ordered. I'm contacting High Command. As the lieutenant hurried to the command nexus, Aaron felt a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. In 3 years of monitoring, nothing unregistered had ever appeared on his screen. The Empire's confidence in its all-knowing registry had been absolute. Until now. The distant speck on his screen represented more than an unidentified ship. It was a crack in the foundation of Imperial certainty. Within minutes, the sector's defense fleet mobilized. Cruisers and destroyers launched from nearby bases at full alert, their weapon systems hot and targeting arrays seeking the intruder. Aaron watched as the Imperial vessels formed a blockade pattern, standard procedure for containing unknown threats. But the unregistered ship continued its course, seemingly oblivious to the armada assembling to intercept it. Thousands of light-years away, Captain Mara Suzuki stood on the bridge of the human exploration vessel, Helios Vanguard, unaware of the panic her ship was causing. The Vanguard represented humanity's most ambitious venture into deep space, equipped with revolutionary quantum-fold engines that had allowed it to traverse vast distances in unprecedented time. Navigation. What's our position? Captain Suzuki asked, studying the holographic star chart hovering above the central console. Navigator Eli Reeves consulted his instruments. We've entered an unmapped sector. Captain, star patterns match theoretical models for the Perseus arm extension. We're making excellent progress. Science Officer Dr. Jaya Lakshmi approached with barely contained excitement. Captain, we're detecting complex artificial structures ahead. The readings suggest advanced civilization, possibly a monitoring station and several large vessels. Suzuki's expression brightened. The Helios Vanguard's mission, to make first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, might be realized sooner than anyone on Earth had dared hope. Communications. Prepare first contact protocols, she ordered. Tactical. Maintain passive scanning only. We don't want to appear threatening. Communications Officer Hassan Malik nodded. Initiating universal greeting broadcasts on all frequencies. Captain. What the human crew didn't realize was that their advanced stealth technology, designed to protect them from potential hostile encounters, combined with their unprecedented velocity, had triggered every alarm in the Imperial Defense Network. Their peaceful exploration vessel appeared on Zephyrian scans as an unknown entity, moving with impossible speed directly toward critical Imperial infrastructure. Back on Sentinel Station, Aaron watched as the Imperial fleet converged on the trajectory of the unregistered vessel. Admiral Theros, commanding the Empire's 7th Fleet from the dreadnought Indomitable, had taken personal control of the operation. All vessels maintain formation. The Admiral's voice boomed through the command channel. Unidentified craft will be intercepted and contained. If it does not respond to hailing or attempts to breach the blockade, you are authorized to disable its propulsion systems. Lieutenant Eridas stood behind Aaron, her presence a reminder of the gravity of the situation. Any response to our identification queries? None, Lieutenant, Aaron replied, monitoring the cascade of data flowing across his screen. But there's something strange. I'm detecting what might be communication attempts from the vessel, but they're not conforming to any Imperial protocol. Eridas frowned. What do you mean? The signals are structured, definitely artificial, but they're using frequency patterns and modulations, unlike anything in our communications database. Aaron's fingers flew across the interface, trying to make sense of the alien transmissions. It's almost as if they're trying different methods, experimenting to establish contact. Or probing our defenses, Eridas said grimly. On the Helios Vanguard, confusion reigned as the crew became aware of their predicament. Captain, multiple vessels are forming a blockade pattern ahead, Tactical Officer Reza Ahmadi reported. They've locked targeting systems on us. Are they receiving our transmissions? Suzuki asked, tension evident in her voice. Communications Officer Malik shook his head. No acknowledgement. I've tried all standard protocols and first contact sequences. They're charging weapons. Captain, Amati warned. Recommend evasive action. Captain Suzuki paced the bridge, weighing their options. The Vanguard wasn't built for combat. It was an exploration vessel with minimal defensive capabilities. Its greatest asset was the revolutionary quantum fold drive that allowed it to manipulate space-time in ways that traditional FTL drives couldn't match. Let's show them what we can do, she decided. Navigator, plot a microjump. Put us behind their formation, not too close. We don't want to appear aggressive. Microjump? Navigator Reeves looked uncertain. In such proximity to their ships, the calculations would need to be perfect. Then, make them perfect. Navigator, we need to demonstrate that we could escape if we wanted to, but choose to stay and communicate instead. As the Imperial fleet closed in, weapon systems primed and targeting locks secured, the unregistered vessel suddenly vanished from Aaron's tracking screen. "Contact lost!" he exclaimed, frantically scanning all sectors. "The vessel has disappeared." Alarms blared across the Imperial fleet as targeting systems lost their lock. Confusion spread through the command channels. Then, impossibly, the unregistered ship reappeared, directly behind the Imperial blockade formation. "Space folding technology," Lieutenant Eridas whispered, her voice a mixture of awe and horror. "They can jump with precision in tactical proximity." The implications were staggering. The Empire's military doctrine relied on the predictability of space travel, the immutable laws of physics that dictated how vessels could maneuver in combat. A ship that could instantly relocate with such precision rendered centuries of tactical doctrine obsolete. Admiral Theros's voice crackled through the command channel, tight with restrained panic. "All vessels, reacquire target and prepare to fire." Sir," Aaron interrupted, knowing he was overstepping his authority, but unable to remain silent. The vessel could have jumped anywhere, including directly into our formation to inflict maximum damage. They chose to position themselves at a respectful distance. I believe they're trying to communicate, not attack. A tense silence followed his outburst. Lieutenant Eridas placed a warning hand on his shoulder, but did not contradict him. After what seemed an eternity, Admiral Theros spoke again. "Maintain weapons lock but hold fire. Continue attempts to establish communication." On the Helios Vanguard, the successful microjump had bought them time, but the alien vessels had quickly reoriented their weapons. "They're still targeting us, but they haven't fired," Tactical Officer Amati reported. "I think we got their attention." "Let's make our intentions absolutely clear," Captain Suzuki decided. "Prepare a visual transmission, universal mathematical sequences, peaceful imagery, and a holographic representation of our ship and crew." "Captain," Dr. Lakshmi interjected, "their technology appears advanced but different from ours. Their ship designs suggest a civilization that developed along different technological paths. They may not interpret our symbols as intended." "Then we'll try everything we can think of," Suzuki replied. "We came to make contact with new civilizations. Let's not fail at the first opportunity." Throughout the Zephyrian Empire, word of the unregistered vessel spread with the speed of quantum communications. The galaxy-wide panic that erupted was unprecedented, not because of the potential threat, but because of the fundamental impossibility of a ship that wasn't in the archives. In the Imperial Palace on Zephy Prime, Emperor Zoltan VII convened an emergency session of the High Council. The Empire's most powerful military and political leaders gathered in the ancient Chamber of Stars, their faces illuminated by the holographic representation of the mysterious vessel. "How is this possible?" the Emperor demanded, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. "For 2,000 years, no vessel has traversed Imperial space without our knowledge." Grand Admiral Vex, Supreme Commander of Imperial Forces, stepped forward. "The vessel employs technology beyond our current understanding, Your Eminence. Its propulsion and space-folding capabilities exceed our most advanced theoretical models. Could it be an experimental craft from the Andromedan Collective? Or perhaps the Tauran Dominion, suggested Counselor Morova, Minister of Intelligence. Impossible, Grand Admiral Vex replied. We have assets within both civilizations. Such a technological leap would not have escaped our notice. Then we face an unknown power, the Emperor concluded, his expression grave. One that has developed in secret, beyond the reach of our intelligence network. Your Eminence, Counselor Velen, the youngest member of the High Council and a known advocate for diplomatic solutions, spoke up. Perhaps we should consider that this vessel comes from beyond our explored space. The universe is vast. We have mapped but a fraction of it. Are you suggesting first contact with an entirely new civilization? Grand Admiral Vex scoffed. A civilization that has somehow developed technology superior to our own? I am suggesting, Counselor Velen replied calmly, that we consider all possibilities before we commit to military action that may have galaxy-wide repercussions. The Emperor studied the hologram of the sleek, alien vessel. What is the status of the situation in Sector 12 Gamma? Admiral Theros has established a containment perimeter, Grand Admiral Vex reported. The vessel executed a space-folding maneuver to position itself behind our blockade, but has taken no hostile action. It appears to be transmitting various signals, possibly attempting communication. Your Eminence, Counselor Velen pressed. This could be the most significant moment in Imperial history. I urge caution and diplomacy. After a moment of contemplation, the Emperor nodded. Order Admiral Theros to establish communication if possible. We will determine our course of action once we know more about these visitors. Back at Sentinel Station, Aaron had been working feverishly to decode the transmissions from the unregistered vessel. The patterns had begun to make sense. Mathematical sequences, universal constants, and what appeared to be visual representations. Lieutenant, he called to Eridas, who had been coordinating with Fleet Command. I think I've isolated their primary communication attempt. It's a holographic transmission. Lieutenant Eridas joined him at the console. Can you display it? Aaron's fingers flew across the interface, interpreting and processing the alien data stream. Above his workstation, a hologram flickered into existence, a three-dimensional representation of the unregistered vessel itself, alongside bipedal figures that resembled Zephyrians, but with subtle anatomical differences. The figures made gestures of greeting, and symbols appeared that Aaron recognized as mathematical constants. They're showing us who they are, he breathed. They're trying to establish peaceful contact. Lieutenant Eridas studied the hologram, her expression softening slightly. Transmit this to Admiral Theros immediately, and continue working on decoding their language. If we can establish basic communication, it may prevent a catastrophic misunderstanding. On the bridge of the Helios Vanguard, the tension had begun to ease as the alien fleet maintained its position without firing. They've received our transmission, Communications Officer Malik reported. They're analyzing it, and they're responding. A hologram materialized in the center of the bridge, a Zephyrian officer in formal uniform, making gestures that mirrored those sent by the humans. Alongside the figure were mathematical symbols and what appeared to be a simplified star chart. They're showing us their territory. Navigator Reeves interpreted, studying the star patterns, and inviting us to... I think they're inviting us to follow them to a specific location. Captain Suzuki smiled. First contact achieved. This is what we came for. People. Let's not disappoint our hosts. The Helios Vanguard followed the Imperial escort toward Zephy Prime, the heart of the Zephyrian Empire. As they traveled, rudimentary communication was established through mathematical and visual exchanges, laying the groundwork for more complex interactions. Aboard Sentinel Station, Aaron found himself unexpectedly at the center of historic events. as the first to detect the unregistered vessel and advocate for peaceful contact. He had been ordered to join the diplomatic team that would receive the alien visitors. "I don't understand, Lieutenant," he said as Eridus informed him of his new assignment. "I'm just a sensor technician. Surely there are more qualified personnel for first contact protocols?" "You saw possibility where others saw only threat," Eridus replied. "The Empire needs that perspective now more than ever. Besides, you've developed the most insight into their communication attempts. Admiral Theros requested you personally." Aaron blinked in surprise. Admiral Theros, the same admiral who was ready to open fire. The admiral recognizes the value of diverse viewpoints, especially when confronted with unprecedented situations. A rare smile crossed Eridus's face. "Pack your things, Technician Kestal. You're going to Zephi Prime." The journey to the Imperial capital passed in a blur for Aaron. He'd never left Sector 12 Gamma during his 3 years of service, and now he found himself aboard the Admiral's flagship, bound for the heart of the Empire. His days were filled with intensive work on the communication system they were developing to interface with the alien vessel, which they now knew called itself Helios Vanguard, and came from a civilization known as humanity. Admiral Theros, a grizzled veteran with piercing eyes and a perpetual scowl, surprised Aaron with his adaptability. The Admiral had commanded Imperial fleets for 4 decades, earning a reputation for ruthless efficiency and unwavering loyalty to Imperial doctrine. Yet faced with technology that defied that doctrine, he had chosen restraint over aggression. "Tell me, Technician Kestal," the Admiral said during one of their briefing sessions, studying the holographic representation of the human vessel. "What made you speak up when I gave the order to fire?" Aaron swallowed nervously. "The evidence contradicted the assumption of hostile intent, sir. Their maneuver demonstrated both superior capability and deliberate restraint. It seemed illogical to respond with aggression." "Illogical?" Theros repeated, a hint of amusement in his voice. "You know, the Empire wasn't built on logic alone. It was built on power, the power to impose our will upon the galaxy. For 2 millennia, that power has gone unchallenged." He gestured to the hologram. "Until now." "Do you see them as a threat, sir?" "I see them as a reminder, Technician. A reminder that the universe is vaster and more complex than we have allowed ourselves to believe." The Admiral's expression turned contemplative. "The star registry was meant to be a tool of knowledge, but we turned it into a cage for our own minds. If it wasn't in the archives, it couldn't exist. Such arrogance." As they approached Zephi Prime, Aaron witnessed the full majesty of the Imperial capital for the first time. The planet was encircled by massive orbital structures, administrative centers, military bases, and cultural repositories that had taken centuries to construct. The surface below gleamed with the lights of a world-spanning city, home to over 30 billion Imperial citizens. The Helios Vanguard was escorted to a special docking facility on the outskirts of the orbital complex, isolated from regular traffic and heavily guarded. As the alien vessel settled into its berth, Aaron felt the weight of history pressing down upon him. Whatever happened next would change the Empire forever. The diplomatic reception was held in the ancient Hall of First Light, a vast chamber whose transparent dome offered an unobstructed view of the stars above. The Empire's highest officials gathered to witness the arrival of the human delegation. Emperor Zoltan VII himself presided from the stellar throne, flanked by members of the High Council. Aaron stood with the technical team, responsible for operating the translation matrix they had developed based on the mathematical exchanges. His heart pounded as the massive doors swung open to admit the visitors from Earth. Captain Suzuki led the human delegation, accompanied by her senior officers. They wore formal uniforms that, while different in design from Imperial attire, conveyed a similar sense of dignity and purpose. As they approached the throne, The humans performed a respectful gesture of greeting that their cultural liaison had communicated would be appropriate. Emperor Zoltan VII rose to his feet, his voice resonating through the hall. On behalf of the Zephyrian Empire, I welcome you to Zephy Prime. Your arrival marks an unprecedented moment in our history. The translation matrix conveyed his words to the humans, and Captain Suzuki's response was similarly translated for the Imperial audience. We thank you for your welcome, Emperor Zoltan. We come in peace, seeking friendship and the exchange of knowledge between our civilizations. The formal exchanges continued, each side sharing basic information about their respective worlds. The humans spoke of Earth, a single planet from which their species had expanded to a modest collection of colony worlds. Their journey aboard the Helios Vanguard represented their first venture beyond their local cluster of stars. To the astonishment of the Imperial Court, the humans revealed that they had developed their remarkable quantum fold technology within just the last decade, a pace of innovation that seemed impossible by Imperial standards, where technological advancement was carefully controlled and implemented over generations. How is it possible? Grand Admiral Vex asked, unable to contain his skepticism. That a civilization confined to a single star system could develop space-folding capabilities that surpass our own. Dr. Lakshmi, the Vanguard's science officer, responded with a diplomatic smile. Different perspectives often lead to different paths of discovery. Admiral, our isolation from galactic civilization meant we had to find our own solutions to the challenges of deep space travel. And what do you seek from the Zephyrian Empire? Counselor Morova inquired, her tone carefully neutral. Why venture so far from your home? Knowledge. Captain Suzuki answered simply. The desire to learn, to understand the universe and our place within it. We had no way of knowing we would encounter your civilization. We simply followed our curiosity. Counselor Velen leaned forward. A most commendable quality, and one I fear we have allowed to diminish within our own society. This earned him disapproving glances from several of his colleagues. But the Emperor appeared thoughtful. Throughout the proceedings, Aaron monitored the translation matrix, making subtle adjustments to improve accuracy. The linguistic patterns of the humans were becoming more familiar, revealing a culture that valued directness and individual initiative, qualities that contrasted sharply with imperial norms of deference and collective harmony. As the formal reception concluded, Emperor Zoltan announced that a special session of the Galactic Council would be convened to determine the official relationship between the Empire and humanity. Until then, the crew of the Helios Vanguard would be honored guests, free to explore approved sections of Zephy Prime under appropriate escort. In the days that followed, Aaron found himself assigned as liaison to the human technical team, working to establish more comprehensive communication protocols. The humans' approach to technology fascinated him. They viewed systems as tools to be continuously improved rather than perfected forms to be preserved. Your star registry is impressive, Navigator Reeves commented as Aaron demonstrated the central archive terminal. But why keep it so static? Surely you encounter new stellar phenomena that require updated classifications. The registry is considered complete, Aaron explained, then hesitated. Or, at least, it was until your arrival. Additions require extensive verification and approval from the Bureau of Celestial Knowledge. Sounds bureaucratic, Reeves observed with a smile. It ensures accuracy, Aaron replied automatically, then frowned. But, yes, it can also stifle discovery. I've submitted 17 requests for classification updates based on anomalous readings from Sector 12 Gamma. 16 are still pending review. And the 17th? Denied without explanation. Aaron surprised himself with the bitterness in his voice. Reeves studied him with unexpected compassion. Must be frustrating for someone who clearly values precision. The human's understanding struck a chord within Aaron. Throughout his years of service, he had accepted the limitations of imperial systems as necessary and proper. Now, encountering a civilization that embraced change and uncertainty. He began to question assumptions he had never before examined. Meanwhile, in the upper echelons of imperial power, heated debates raged about how to respond to the human presence. The military faction, led by Grand Admiral Vex, argued for containment and restricted knowledge exchange. The diplomatic faction, championed by Councillor Velen, advocated for open relations and mutual benefit. Their technology represents a direct challenge to imperial security. Grand Admiral Vex insisted during one particularly tense council session. We must control access to their vessels and limit their exposure to sensitive information. Their technology also represents an opportunity for advancement that we cannot ignore. Councillor Velen countered. For centuries, we have refined existing systems while making only incremental improvements. The humans have shown us that entirely new approaches are possible. At what cost? Vex demanded. Our society is built on stability and order. Their innovation seems to prize disruption above all else. Emperor Zoltan listened to the arguments with careful attention. Unlike many of his predecessors, who had been content to maintain the status quo, Zoltan harbored a scholar's curiosity beneath his regal exterior. The arrival of the humans had awakened questions long dormant in the imperial consciousness. Perhaps, the emperor suggested, both perspectives have merit. We must protect our civilization's stability while allowing room for beneficial exchange. The human's journey here was driven by curiosity, the same impulse that led our ancestors to the stars before the founding of the Empire. On the eve of the Galactic Council session, Aaron received an unexpected summons to the Imperial Archives. Lieutenant Eridas was waiting for him at the entrance, her expression uncharacteristically anxious. "Technician Kestel," she greeted him. "I have been instructed to give you temporary access to restricted historical records. The Emperor himself has authorized this unusual measure." Aaron's eyes widened. "May I ask why?" "You may ask, but I cannot answer with certainty. I was told only that your unique perspective on recent events might be valuable in interpreting certain inconsistencies in our historical narrative." The Imperial Archives were housed in a massive structure that descended deep beneath the surface of Zephi Prime. The restricted section occupied the lowest levels, accessible only to those with the highest security clearance. As they descended in the gravity tube, Aaron felt a growing sense of trepidation. The archive keeper who greeted them was ancient, even by imperial standards. His withered form, supported by a levitation harness. "You are the one who first detected the unregistered vessel," he stated, studying Aaron with milky eyes. "The one who saw possibility instead of threat." "I simply reported what my instruments detected," Aaron replied uncomfortably, "and interpreted those readings correctly, despite them contradicting all established knowledge." The keeper gestured toward a sealed door that pulsed with verification fields. Few possess such clarity of perception. Fewer still have the courage to act upon it. Beyond the door lay a small chamber containing a single holographic terminal. The keeper activated it with a sequence of commands, then turned to Aaron. "What you are about to see has been viewed by fewer than 30 individuals in the past millennium. The Emperor believes you should be the 31st. The hologram that materialized showed a vessel strikingly similar to the Helios Vanguard, though clearly of more primitive design. The date stamp indicated it was from the early years of the Empire, nearly 2,000 years ago." "I don't understand," Aaron said, studying the image. "Is this an ancestor of the human vessel?" "That is one possibility," the keeper acknowledged. "There is more." The hologram shifted to display official records documenting the arrival of an unregistered vessel from beyond Imperial space. The response had been far less measured than the current situation: immediate attack, capture of the surviving crew, and seizure of the vessel for study. "The first Emperor ordered all knowledge of this encounter restricted," the keeper explained. "The official history recorded only that a new propulsion system had been developed through Imperial innovation. The truth, that it was reverse-engineered from the captured vessel, was known only to a select few. Were they humans? Aaron asked, his mind racing with implications. The biological samples were preserved, the keeper replied. Recent comparison with the human delegation confirms genetic compatibility. They were, if not humans from Earth, then certainly close relatives. Aaron struggled to process this revelation. Why show me this now? Because history stands at a crossroads. Technician Kestel. Tomorrow, the Galactic Council will decide whether to embrace cooperation with humanity or attempt to control and contain them, as we did their predecessors. The Emperor believes that those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And what does he want me to do with this information? That, the keeper said, is for you to determine. The night before the council session, Aaron could not sleep. The revelation from the archives haunted him, forcing him to confront uncomfortable questions about the empire he had served faithfully. If Imperial technological development had been partly based on stolen knowledge, what else in the official narrative might be untrue? When morning came, he made his decision. As a junior technician, he had no standing to address the Galactic Council directly, but Admiral Theros, who had requested Aaron's presence at the session, might listen. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council was a marvel of Imperial architecture, designed to inspire awe in representatives from across the Empire's vast domains. Delegates from 100 worlds filled the tiered seating, their diverse forms representing the many species that had been incorporated into the Imperial structure over millennia. The human delegation entered with dignified composure, though Aaron could detect hints of wonder in their expressions as they took in the magnificent space. Captain Suzuki led her officers to the central podium, where they would present humanity's case for diplomatic relations. Before the formal proceedings began, Aaron approached Admiral Theros, who stood conferring with other military officials near the Imperial delegation's reserved seating. "Admiral," Aaron said, bowing respectfully, "may I speak with you privately? It concerns a matter of historical significance relevant to today's proceedings." Theros regarded him with curiosity. "You've earned the right to be heard, Technician Kestel. Speak freely." Gathering his courage, Aaron related what he had learned in the restricted archives, the previous encounter with beings genetically compatible with humans, the seizure of their technology, and the suppression of this knowledge from Imperial history. The Admiral's expression darkened as Aaron spoke, but he did not interrupt. When Aaron finished, Theros was silent for a long moment. "You understand the sensitivity of this information," he finally said. "Why bring it to me now, when it could potentially undermine our negotiating position?" "Because I believe the truth serves the Empire better than deception," Aaron replied. "If we enter into relations with humanity based on false premises, we risk repeating the mistakes of the past. Their technology already surpasses what we derived from their predecessors. Attempting to control or contain them would likely fail, and destroy any possibility of genuine cooperation." Admiral Theros studied him intently. "You've changed, Technician. 3 weeks ago, you were a dutiful sensor operator content to follow procedure. Now you lecture admirals on diplomatic strategy." "I apologize for my presumption, sir." "Don't," Theros said, surprising him. "The Empire needs more individuals willing to see beyond established parameters." He glanced toward the human delegation. "Wait here." To Aaron's astonishment, the Admiral approached Captain Suzuki directly, engaging in a brief but intense conversation. The human captain's expression shifted from surprise to grave understanding. After a moment, she nodded, and Admiral Theros returned to Aaron. "I've informed Captain Suzuki that you have historical information relevant to both our civilizations," he said. "After the formal council session, there will be a private meeting with the Emperor. You will attend and share what you've learned." The council session proceeded with elaborate formality, Presentations were made regarding the potential benefits and risks of open relations with humanity. Technical analyses of the Helios Vanguard's capabilities were shared, along with cultural briefings prepared by imperial xenoanthropologists, based on their limited interactions with the human crew. Throughout the proceedings, Aaron noticed the Emperor watching with unusual intensity, particularly when Grand Admiral Vex presented his assessment of the strategic implications. While the humans claim peaceful intentions, the Grand Admiral concluded, we must consider the destabilizing effect their technology could have on Imperial systems. I recommend controlled engagement under strict security protocols. When Councillor Velen presented the alternative view, advocating for open exchange and mutual development, the division within the Council became apparent. Delegates aligned themselves with one faction or the other, the chamber buzzing with subdued debate. Finally, Captain Suzuki addressed the Assembly. Her words translated into the Imperial Standard with remarkable fluency, thanks to the improved communication protocols. Esteemed representatives of the Zephyrian Empire, she began, we understand your caution. Humanity has faced similar challenges in our own history when confronted with the unknown. But we have learned that isolation breeds stagnation, while exchange fosters growth. She gestured to her crew. The Helios Vanguard represents not just our technology, but our philosophy, that exploration and cooperation yield greater benefits than restriction and control. We offer friendship and knowledge freely, asking only the same in return. As the formal session concluded, without a definitive resolution, Emperor Zoltan announced that he would consider all perspectives before rendering his decision. The private meeting that followed included only the Emperor, his most trusted advisors, the human command staff, and, to his continuing disbelief, Aaron Kestel. In the Emperor's private council chamber, away from the pomp of the public assembly, Aaron related the historical discovery again. The human officers listened with expressions ranging from shock to vindication. This confirms what we suspected, Dr. Lakshmi said when he finished. The quantum signatures we detected in your propulsion systems shared fundamental patterns with our own. Despite the divergent development paths, it seemed mathematically improbable without some common origin. You knew, Admiral Theros asked sharply. We hypothesized, Captain Suzuki corrected. Our archaeological records include evidence of early interstellar exploration before our last global conflict disrupted space development for several centuries. Some of those early vessels were never accounted for. Emperor Zoltan leaned forward on his throne. If what Technician Kestel has discovered is accurate, and I have reason to believe it is, then our civilizations are connected by more than coincidence. The question before us is whether we acknowledge this connection openly and move forward together, or continue the pattern of secrecy and control established by my predecessors. The Emperor's gaze swept the chamber, lingering on each face in turn. I have listened to arguments for caution and arguments for openness. Both have merit. But there is a third path, one of balanced engagement that honors both our need for stability and the undeniable benefits of innovation. He rose to his feet, his decision made. The Zephyrian Empire will establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity. We will create a joint research initiative to explore the quantum fold technology that both our civilizations have developed along different paths. And, he looked directly at Aaron, we will update the star registry to acknowledge that our knowledge of the universe is neither complete nor infallible. The human delegation responded with obvious relief and enthusiasm. Even Admiral Theros, despite his initial reservations, seemed to accept the wisdom of the Emperor's decision. As the historic meeting concluded, Captain Suzuki approached Aaron. Technician Kestel, I understand you were the first to detect our arrival and advocate for peaceful contact. On behalf of humanity, I thank you for your insight and courage. I was just doing my duty, Aaron replied, still uncomfortable with his unexpected role in these momentous events. Sometimes duty requires us to see beyond established parameters, she said. echoing Admiral Theros's earlier observation. Your civilization values stability and order. Ours prizes exploration and adaptation. Perhaps together, we can find a balance that serves us both. In the days that followed, the Helios Vanguard remained docked at Zephyr Prime as diplomatic protocols were established and cultural exchanges began. Aaron found himself appointed to the newly formed Bureau of Interstellar Relations, tasked with developing improved communication systems for human imperial interaction. The Star Registry underwent its most significant revision in centuries. A new classification was created for civilizations beyond imperial space, with humanity as the first entry. The registry's foundational premise, that all knowledge worth having was already contained within its archives, was quietly amended to acknowledge the vastness of undiscovered space. 1 month after the historic first contact, Aaron stood in the observation dome of Sentinel Station, watching as the Helios Vanguard prepared to depart. The human vessel would return to Earth, carrying Imperial representatives, the first official delegation to humanity's homeworld. Lieutenant Eridas joined him at the viewport. "Quite a change from routine sensor monitoring," she commented. "Yes," Aaron agreed, "though I sometimes miss the predictability." Eridas smiled slightly. "Do you? The Empire is entering a new era because one sensor technician refused to dismiss an anomalous reading. I suspect your future holds more unpredictability than most." Below them, the docking bay opened to reveal the sleek form of the Helios Vanguard. Imperial technicians had assisted with minor repairs and adjustments, while human engineers had shared insights into their quantum fold drive, a mutual exchange that would benefit both civilizations. As the ship disengaged from its moorings, its hull gleamed in the light of Zephyr Prime's sun. Alongside the vessel's name, written in human script, a new symbol had been added, the Imperial Crest, acknowledging the formal alliance between the two civilizations. "They're hailing us," the communications officer announced. "On screen," Lieutenant Eridas ordered. Captain Suzuki's face appeared on the main display. "Sentinel Station, this is Helios Vanguard requesting departure clearance." "Clearance granted. Helios Vanguard," Eridas replied formally. "Safe journey to Earth." "Thank you, Lieutenant." Suzuki's gaze found Erin. "Technician Kestal, I hope our paths cross again." "As do I, Captain," Aaron replied. "The registry will be updated with your trajectory." "And we'll be sure to stay registered this time," she said with a smile. "Helios Vanguard out." The communication ended, and Aaron watched as the human vessel moved away from the station with graceful precision. At a safe distance, it executed one of its remarkable microjumps, disappearing in a flash of light that momentarily outshone the stars. "Vessel trajectory confirmed and logged," Aaron reported automatically, then paused. "And anomaly noted for further study." Lieutenant Eridas raised an eyebrow. "Anomaly?" "The quantum fold signature creates a temporary subspace distortion that our systems aren't calibrated to properly analyze," Aaron explained. "I've drafted a proposal for updated sensor arrays that might help us better understand the phenomenon." "Always looking for improvements," Eridas observed. "The Emperor was right to appoint you to the new bureau." As they turned away from the viewport, Aaron reflected on how dramatically his life had changed in the span of a few weeks. From monotonous routine to the center of historic events, from unquestioning acceptance to active questioning, his perspective had been transformed as surely as the Empire's relationship with the greater universe. The Star Registry would never again be seen as infallible or complete. Instead, it would become what it should have been all along, a living document of discovery, constantly updated as new knowledge was gained. And somewhere in its vastly expanded archives, a simple sensor report from technician Aaron Kestal would mark the moment when everything changed. "Unregistered vessel detected at sector boundary. Not in any archives. And it's moving fast." The story of the Zephyrian Empire and humanity was just beginning, written across the stars by vessels that would now travel together into the unknown.